call me Mystic Mac because I predict these things.
UFC Abu Dhabi is this Saturday, and I'm going to give you guys my predictions and breakdown on all the fights. If you're looking for a little bit more insight into each of the fights, a little bit more info, a little bit of a more detailed breakdown, check out my channel. I've got dedicated videos to every one of these fights where I will run through the fighters, give you their statistics, what they do well, and how I think they match up with each other, and how I think those fights play out. Like and subscribe the channel. Appreciate the love that I'm getting from everybody. And let's get into this. So the first fight of the night, Martin Buday versus Marcus Buchecha. I'm going to go with Marcus Buchecha. I think he's going to get the takedowns, get the submission. All 5 of his wins are by finish. I think one of them's ground and pound, the rest are submissions. Did have a loss to Rugrug, but other than that, faced some decent competition over in one championship. He's very high level on the ground, and I think he's just, there's a glaring gap there between Buday and Buchecha in terms of athleticism and grappling ability. So Martin Buday's not awful. He's got 5-6 wins in the UFC. His only loss was to Shamil Ghaziyev, but he hasn't fought the best competition, going to split decisions with Andrei Arlovsky, squeaking by, who was that last guy that he fought? Uran Sakhtabaldiyev. I just think he's one of those plodding, kind of big heavyweights, so there's nothing really special to him. As soon as he takes like a decent step up in competition, he loses. So I'm going to go with Marcus Buchecha to get this one done by submission and to get a win in his UFC debut. So moving on, Mohammad Yahya versus Stephen Nguyen. I'm going to go with Stephen Nguyen. He's just better than Mohammad Yahya. I don't really know what Mohammad Yahya does very well. He's 12-5, so doesn't have the best record. Coming off of a loss to Cowie Fernandez, who just beat up his legs. Ended up chinning him as he kind of just ran in. Stands very tall. Doesn't put a lot of offense out there. Can be hit. Like I said, get his legs beat up by Cowie Fernandez. Was getting beat up by Trevor Peek in that fight where he lost by decision. And Stephen Nguyen, although he lost his UFC debut against Jarno Aarons, he's had some good performances against AJ Cunningham, some other guy in the Dana White's Contender Series. Was going to war with Alon Cruz before he got knocked out in that fight, but he's pretty decent on the feet, very technical, pretty well-rounded, good takedown defense, very floaty on the feet, technical striker, fights at distance, has a good jab, throws straight punches, doesn't check leg kicks very well, which is a concern, but he does have good leg kicks of his own. And good takedown defense, 84% takedown defense. So I think he's going to be able to just pick at Mohammad Yahya at range, be the better striker, be the better all-around fighter, and either get the KO or do enough to win all rounds to get a unanimous decision win. But I'd be shocked if Mohammad Yahya won this fight. I just don't think he's very good. I think he's on this card because he's the only Abu Dhabi fighter in the UFC. And if you look at his record, his only wins are against, cans on the regional scene. So I'm gonna go Stephen Nguyen to win his first, to get his first UFC win. Sorry. Ibo Aslan taking on Billy Elekana. I'm gonna go with Ibo Aslan. He lost in his last fight against Ilan Cutelaba, but Ilan Cutelaba's got a lot of high-level experience. He's very good, very well-rounded. He was having some success on the feet in that fight before he got taken down, gave up mount, and got triangle choke. So not the best grappler, one of those guys who wants to stand on the feet and bang. Kind of throws looping punches, doesn't have the best gas tank, but he's got knockout power. Had a really good knockout over Anton Turkalj, where that fight was kind of 50-50 before he got the win. Had the standing TK over Rafael Cerqueira. Billy Elekana, I don't really know much about this dude. I mean, he came in on short notice against Bogdan Guskov, got that takedown initially and controlled his back for a long time, which is impressive. But then Guskov got out of it and kind of beat him up for the last 50 seconds of that fight, and then he just withered and gave up in the second round, literally cowering against the cage, Anthony Smith style, didn't want to get back up, and just gave him his neck, and I just don't like to see that. I don't, go out on your shield on the feet, don't just look for a way out and give the guy your neck. And I look on the regional scene, he's got some good wins, but going to split decisions with some of these guys that aren't the best, hasn't really fought the best competition the way that I think Ibo Aslan has. At least Rafael Cerqueira fought Anton Turkalj a couple times. Some of these guys 12-2. So I think Ibo Aslan's going to just be a little bit better on the feet. and keep it on the feet, not get taken down. He's got pretty good takedown defense, so I think he chins Billy Elekana and gets him out of there. Moving on, Amanda Ribas versus Tabatha Ricci. Amanda Ribas, you know, she hasn't looked the best as of late. She can be hurt. She can be finished. She was finished by Mackenzie Dern. She got controlled on the ground by Rose Namajunas. She was losing to Luana Pinheiro before Pinheiro gassed out, and she got the TKO. She got beat up by Macy Barber. Got knocked out by Marina Rodriguez. So she can be finished. She can be chinned. And Tabatha Ricci, she's had some questionable wins herself. Some of these split decisions that she got. Tisha Pennington, even the Angela Hill one that she won, you could argue that she lost those fights, but I do think she gets this one done. You know, she's a judo and jiu-jitsu black belt, decent striking. I think she'll be able to keep it on the feet and outpoint Amanda Ribas for the majority of this fight. You know, Ricci, she's got wins over Jillian Robertson, Polyana Viana, Jessica Penne, like I said, Angela Hill, Tisha Pennington. She's only losing to the Yan Jonans, the Lupita Godinez, and the Manon Fioros. So only losing to really top-tier caliber fighters. And Amanda Ribas just hasn't looked the best as of late. You know, and she can be hurt. She can be finished. You know, she goes for it on the feet. She you know, she'll bite down on the mouthpiece and get after it. But I think Tabatha Ricci's just gonna be a little too technical for her on the feet, and I think she'll outpoint her en route to a unanimous decision or a decision win. Damon Blackshear versus Davey Grant. You know, I'm high on Damon Blackshear. I think he's very good. His last appearance against Alatang Ali, you know, it wasn't the best showing. You know, he's fighting behind his teep kicks, you know, his jab, really utilizing that 6-7 inch reach advantage he had in that fight to win. But, you know, I think Davey Grant, he was supposed to fight Daniel Santos, I think, back in April it was. Daniel Santos had to pull out. And so he hasn't fought since his win over Ramon Tavares back in December. And he's getting up there in age, but something tells me that Davey Grant, you know, he's very good on the ground. He's got sneaky good kicks, sneaky good stand-up. He's tough as nails, puts on a really high pace, mixes it up very well. And I think I'm going to go with him in this fight. You know, he's a crafty veteran. He's been in the UFC for a long time. He has been finished a couple times, but that was back in like 2018, 2016 by submission. Outside of that, you know, he's hard to get out of there. His losses to, you know, Daniel Marcos by split decision, I think he won that fight. Lost to Adrian Yanez by split, Marlon Vera by decision. Like, he's hard to get out of there. And I think he's just a little bit grittier, a little bit tougher. I think he'll be able to put a pace on Damon Blackshear and kind of weaponize his cardio at times. But, you know, Damon Blackshear is really good on the ground, and Davey Grant's been, you know, susceptible to takedowns in the past, but I think he's going to beat up his legs and just do a little bit more on the feet to win a decision, honestly. So I think people are underestimating Davey Grant. He's a plus 205 underdog in this one, but, you know, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt just like Damon Blackshear. He's getting up there in age, but he doesn't look like he's not slowing down. It doesn't look like he's 39, about to turn 40 years old. He's fighting at a high pace still with guys like Daniel Marcos in a fight that I think he won. And like I said, he's been in the UFC for a long time, since 2013, so has the experience advantage. Hasn't fought in a while, so, you know, he's going to be fully healthy going into this one. Whereas Damon Blackshear, yes, he's got the momentum edge, but he just fought back in April, didn't look the best, hopping right back in there. So we'll see, but I think it's hard to count out Davey Grant, being the you know, such the savvy vet that he is. So I'm going to go with Davey Grant to win that one by decision. Muslim Salikhov takes on Carlos Leal. Carlos Leal is going to take this one, I think. You know, I think that he is a problem at welterweight. He reminds me of Jack Della Maddalena, just his ability to get in guys' face, stay in the pocket, do damage, rip to the body, puts a lot of volume out there, has a really good chin, has a really good takedown defense game. And if he does get taken down, he's able to scramble back up to his feet, has vicious kicks. He was actually the first fight that I broke down when I started this channel against Rinat Fakhretdinov, and I picked him to win as an underdog, and he got absolutely robbed in that fight. He beat the brakes off of Rinat, and I think this was in Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia, and they gave it to Rinat Fakhretdinov, who he even knew he didn't win that fight. But Carlos Leal is the real deal. He's only like 30. He's 31 years old, big and strong, great chin, kind of keeps his hands low, so his punches come at weird angles, which allows him to sometimes get hit, but, you know, he wears it. He eats shots and fires back very well, and, you know, mixes up his targets very well. Like I said, leg kicks, rips to the body, goes upstairs, tons of volume with no cardio issues, works well in the clinch with elbows and knees, so all around very good. And same with Muslim Salikhov. You know, before he went into MMA, he had like 185 kickboxing matches that he won, like 76 of them by KO, so very high level in that regard. But you know, he has been chinny as of late. He is getting up there in age. He's like 41 years old. Yeah, 41 years old. Knocked out by Randy Brown, knocked out by Jing Liang Li. Had a split decision over Santiago Ponzinibbio, which in hindsight isn't the best look, but is coming off of a win over Kenan Song. But who's not beating Kenan Song? You know, lost to Nicholas Dalby, who puts on a very high pace. And I think Carlos Leal is a better version of Nicholas Dalby. He's younger, has the same kind of fighting style, a lot of volume, high pressure. But I think he's got more finishing ability. And I think he's also a jiu-jitsu brown belt. So if it goes to the ground and his takedown defense doesn't hold up for him, you know, he's not going to be a victim there if it does go to the ground. And Muslim Salikhov, he will mix in takedowns, but I think this is going to take place primarily on the feet, and I think Carlos Leal is going to overwhelm him and get him out of there. TKO, KO within the distance. Bryce Mitchell takes on Saeed Nurmagomedov. You know, Saeed Nurmagomedov, you would think with his last name, with him being from Dagestan, that he'd be really good at wrestling, but he doesn't have the best takedown defense. He doesn't have the best takedown accuracy. He's one of those guys that, you know, he's looking to keep it on the feet. He's got very good leg dexterity, very good kicks, likes to fight at range. He's a very good kickboxer, and you know, he's got these the front choke series that he runs when guys shoot on him. He's got really good ninja chokes, guillotine chokes, things like that he's caught a lot of guys with. But he gasses. He's always slowing down in his fights. He was gassing horribly against Vinicius Oliveira in his last fight. Gassing in the Sadio Cub Kakramanov fight, was getting kind of tossed around in that fight before he got the guillotine choke. He got beat by Jonathan Martinez, beat by Hani Barcelos. I think that Bryce Mitchell is going to be too much for him in the grappling department. I think he's going to be throwing big bombs, shooting takedowns, and pushing a high pace on Saeed Nurmagomedov, and eventually getting his takedowns and kind of grinding out a decision or getting the finish in this one. But Saeed Nurmagomedov, his grappling and cardio are a concern, and when you couple that with him going against Bryce Mitchell, who's always got great cardio, who's tough as nails, and who's going to be shooting takedowns all night, I got to go with Bryce Mitchell to get this one done. Moving on, Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov. You know, I was really high on Nikita Krylov. I thought he was kind of the future, and then he ran up against Dominic Reyes. I picked against him in that fight. I thought Dominic Reyes was going to chin him as he came in, and he did, because Krylov kind of overextends, kind of lunges with his punches, and I'm concerned that Bogdan Guskov is going to catch him as he's coming in, because Guskov is very powerful on the feet. He's patient, and he's extremely accurate. If you watch his fights, you know, the way that he throws punches, you know, he lands on guys with a lot of power. And like I said, like it's uncanny. You don't see very often at light heavyweight how accurate he is when he's throwing. Even his combinations, you know, all of his punches are landing. And he's had good wins against Zach Pauga, Ryan Spann, even though he did get controlled that whole first round. Billy Elekana, he got taken down and controlled the first round, but then came back. And I think he has a chance to knock out Nikita Krylov, just because he did get knocked out by Dominic Reyes, and that was only 3 months ago. But I'm going to go with Nikita Krylov. I think he's going to make it crazy, make it kind of an awkward fight with Bogdan Guskov, and eventually, you know, get his takedowns and work his submission game. I can't get over the fact that Bogdan Guskov got taken down and choked out immediately by Ozdemir. He was controlled by Ryan Spann. The first round was taken down by Billy Elekana and had his back controlled. And I think if Nikita Krylov gets in those positions, he's going to get the submission. He has a triangle choke over Spann. Few rear naked chokes on his record. I just think he's going to be able to exploit the takedown defense of Bogdan Guskov and get the win in this one. I think he's a favorite. He's minus 190 favorite, but I wouldn't be shocked if Guskov chinned him. If, you know, Guskov was able to defend the takedown, stay safe, or, you know, get back up to his feet and put hands on Nikita Krylov. Him coming back 3 months after such a bad knockout is just stupid, in my opinion. I don't know why he's doing that. He's 33 years old. Like, give yourself at least 6 months. But I'm going to go with Nikita Krylov to stay safe on the feet, make it a make it a scrap, and eventually get Bogdan Guskov to the ground, control him to get a decision or to find the submission. Asu Almabayev versus Jose Ochoa. So Asu Almabayev was supposed to be fighting, what was his name? Ramazan Tamirov, who had to pull out. I think he popped for steroids maybe. Don't quote me on that. And Jose Ochoa taking this fight on short notice, coming off of that very impressive performance against Cody Durden back in June. You know, he was able to deal with the wrestling of Cody Durden. And Cody Durden's no slouch on the feet either. I think he's like a Golden Gloves boxer. Was eventually able to get the knockout over him. And Asu Almabayev coming off of that loss to Manel Kape. Manel Kape cheated in that fight. I get it, but Manel Kape's very good. I think he's a future champ, but he was landing, you know, eye pokes to Asu Almabayev before he got the TKO. And before that, Almabayev's just shown to be really well-rounded, really good grappling, really good striking on the feet as well. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. I think he was a Kazakhstan national champion. Has really good kicks, swings hard if you try to come in and land on him, and he's just very hard to hit and to measure just because of the takedown threat that he presents. And Jose Ochoa, you know, his only loss was to Lonier Kavanaugh in a fight that, you know, was very close. And he did do well against Cody Durden, who's, you know, obviously a good wrestler, but I think taking this fight on short notice against a guy like Asu Almabayev, who is much more experienced. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded. I think he's going to be the better grappler in this one. I think he's going to find his takedowns en route to getting a unanimous decision over Jose Ochoa, where I just can't, you know, I can't trust him taking this fight against such a good guy on short notice. I don't know if he was, I don't think he was in camp. I don't think he's going to have the cardio to deal with somebody like Asu Almabayev. So moving on, Shara Magomedov takes on Marc-André Barriault. This is a layup for Shara Magomedov. They're giving him a freebie in front of the Middle Eastern crowd. Marc-André Barriault coming off of a knockout over Bruno Silva, but you know who's not knocking out Bruno Silva? Doesn't want to be in there anymore, so I don't really take a lot of stock in that win. Before that was knocked out by Dustin Stoltzfus, knocked out by Joe Pyfer before that. Had a decent fight with Chris Curtis that he lost by split decision, but I just don't think he's going to have the striking ability to mix it up with Shara Magomedov. I don't think he's going to really be able to push the high pace that he relies on against Magomedov, who's going to be backing up, managing the distance, landing kicks on the back foot. And Magomedov's got decent cardio and decent takedown defense as well. So I think Shara Magomedov gets this one done. He'll outpoint Marc-André Barriault or get the KO in this one. But I think this is a big mismatch. Marc-André Barriault plus 375, minus 500 for Shara Magomedov. So I'm going to go Shara Magomedov by knockout. Petr Yan takes on Marcus McGhee. You know, Marcus McGhee is very good. I don't understand this matchup, honestly. I don't think he deserves a fight with Petr Yan. I know he is, you know, one of the top prospects. I think he's 4-0 in the UFC. He's getting up there in age at 35, but, you know, he started his pro career when he was 30 years old. Back in 2020, he's 10-1. Only loss was to a guy on the regional scene, but then you look at Petr Yan, he's 32. He's 32 years old and 18-5. So he's been, you know, he's at the age essentially where Marcus McGhee started his career, and he's fought nothing but high-level guys. He's got the rub against these guys. He has the experience. He's fought the best of the best, Davison Figueiredo, Song Yadong. He's coming off 2 wins over those guys. Lost to Merab Dvalishvili, lost to Sean O'Malley, supposedly. I think he won that fight, but lost to Aljamain Sterling, split decision, beat Corey Sandhagen, beat Jose Aldo. Like, he's very good, master of sport and boxing, really good takedown defense, really good cardio, has his own good sweeps, things like that. And Marcus McGhee, he's very good. He's very fast, hard punches, you know, good kicks, powerful on the feet. I think he's dropped and finished 3 of his opponents outside of Jonathan Martinez in his last fight, where he was kind of getting his legs beat up, and the fight was starting to change in that 3rd round. But, you know, he does maintain good distance, doesn't take a lot of damage, but I just don't think he has the experience or the well-roundedness of somebody like Petr Yan to get the win in this one. I think he is very good. I think he'll bounce back, but I think this is just too much too soon for Marcus McGhee. So I'm going to go with Petr Yan to get this one done by decision. Robert Whittaker takes on Reinier de Ridder in the main event. I'm going to go with Reinier de Ridder. You know, Robert Whittaker, very good on the feet. Comes from a wrestling background, jiu-jitsu black belt. I just think he's too small for 185. I think he gets out-muscled. I think he gets bullied around sometimes at 185. He did used to fight at 170. He got taken down and face cranked by Khamzat Chimaev. Had a very good performance against Ikram Aliskerov where he knocked him out. Got hurt really bad by Paulo Costa in that fight, but ended up turning around and winning the next 2 rounds to get a decision. Got knocked out by a jab to Dricus du Plessis. Was also taken down and controlled and kind of beat up in that first round as well. So he can be hurt, he can be chinned, but most importantly, he can be taken down and controlled and kind of just out-muscled. And that's what I think happens in this one. I think Reinier de Ridder is eventually going to get his grappling game going. You know, he's a judo black belt, jiu-jitsu black belt. He's, you know, fought a lot of high-level experience too. And I was initially looking at this fight, I was like, you know, Robert Whittaker has tons of experience, tons of championship-level experience. And then I'm like, but so does Reinier de Ridder. He was a double champ over in one championship, I think it was. Fought a lot of really good guys. He's only lost to one guy, Anatoly Malikin, who's been juiced to the gills. So you got to kind of take that one with a grain of salt. He did have a really back-and-forth fight with Gerald Meerschaert. He did drop him, though, and then ended up getting the finish in the 3rd round. Had a dominating performance over Kevin Holland. And then had a dominating performance over Bo Nickel, who's obviously a very high-level wrestler, but he did this on the feet. And I think he's kind of like he's gonna like swarm Robert Whittaker. He's just gonna kind of walk forward. He's gonna get a hold of him eventually, kind of beat him up in the clinch, wear on him, and just use his size and physicality advantage over Robert Whittaker. And I think he's gonna drag him to the ground and kind of drown him there. He's 6'4" with a 78-inch reach, and Robert Whittaker is 6 foot with a 73.5-inch reach. So obviously going to be the bigger guy. He was a double champ at middleweight and light heavyweight over in one championship. So I think he's going to be the bigger, stronger guy. He's going to be a much worse striker on the feet, but you know, I think there's an opportunity for Robert Whittaker to kind of avoid the takedowns and kind of pick at him at range and beat him up on the feet. But I think eventually, over a 5-round fight, Reinier de Ridder is gonna walk him down. He's gonna corner him. He's gonna get his hands on him and start to wear on him. Eventually, get him to the ground and, you know, win rounds for a decision or get the submission. But I do think Reinier de Ridder gets this one done. Robert Whittaker, he can be controlled on the ground. And it's usually by guys that are much bigger than him, and I think that's what's going to happen in this one with Reinier de Ridder. I think he's going to get the win by decision or submission. So let me know what you guys think. Like and subscribe. Appreciate you watching. Thanks.